Hey everyone. So over the past year or so, I've been sharing about a type of visionary state scenario I've been going through, right? And I wanted to talk about a little bit today. It's more like the effect it has on me. So I like to think of this as the way the Billy curse has affected me, because this is the part that's kind of rough, kind of a rough part of the whole experience. And I did a video earlier on explaining where I get this concept. It's sort of my little joke, but it might tie in somehow, because what happens with the visionary state, it's almost like stuff from the future gets taken to the past. And one of the stories I shared was how when my great grandma was staying at the nursing home where my father worked down there in the Florida Keys, I think, kind of thinking probably around, I kind of remember that like around the age 18, 19, my last year of high school. That could have been around the time the conversation went down. And it was when I turned 18, it was the first time I thought I might have been going to visionary state. It might be where I know Bill Lieb from and all that. But I'm kind of thinking around that time, there was an older woman who was always in a straitjacket, and they had her wheelchair parked near the nurse's station. So it was like tied to the wall, and she'd just be screaming out for somebody named Billy. And my grandma warned me I shouldn't make fun of her, or I could end up like that someday. So so the story I've been sharing is where I've been going into visionary state starting the age of 6, and I thought I had this little boyfriend named Billy. So every time I heard her yell Billy, somehow it did bring him to mind, so I just made this little sketch like maybe a few years or so ago of Billy. So I would have been about the age 6, he would have been about the age 8. He kept saying I'm 8 going on 9. Anyways, Billy turns out to be Bill. And nobody calls, I don't think anyone in the world calls him Billy. I think if anything, they might even call him Willie. But I might be the only one that uses that, and that might be where it gets tied in. So anyways, that's why I like the phrase the Billy curse. So it feels like, something's entirely wrong with this. Like the first leg of the story is not so bad, because it's a thing where it went unnoticed. I honestly thought this was a real person, and I thought my family knew who this was. So I created a special playlist just for the subject. I call it the JodyVision. So I try to include that in the title, so this is going to be one of those videos. Or I might be talking about my visions, or just how I think about things, or maybe even my path as an artist, because I think this all ties into, making me the artist I'm becoming, and making me the fighter I'm becoming. And so that's where I feel like, I'm straddling two communities. There's a music artist community, and then there's a martial arts and spirituality community that kind of ties in together in my personal journey. So, the Jody journey is a channel that's really just about my life. And what I've done is I tried to make a few playlists to share different aspects. Like I started out with a goose, making videos with the goose, just because I honestly wasn't comfortable talking and stuff. So I did that for a while. I almost feel like that's what I needed to get used to seeing myself on video. And then when my friend Rosie died last year, I decided to start sharing about my experience, because that's kind of what brought me here, because she's one of the few people who I can really talk to about this stuff. In fact, she was the person who was taking care of Billy in the visionary state back in 1982. And what makes this at least a somewhat prophetic vision is that we had no way of knowing who any of these people were. So like, I didn't hear about Billy Lieb Frontline Assembly till like 1987, and I didn't meet Rosie till 1996, and it took about a few years or so to process where I had met her before. But like Billy was kind of the opposite. It was more like I was in search of Bill Lieb because I was hoping he was Billy. So I think I was sort of aware that they might be the same person by the time I had contacted him. And anyway, so I want to talk about kind of the effect, because I think this part kind of went unnoticed, so it didn't really bother me. And then the second leg of my journey, when we're talking about the story of go to visionary state and looking for Billy, is a harder part. So I feel like things peak out in 2000, when I go into a type of visionary state where like I see the future and I come back, and that's what really wakes me up to what's been happening all along. That seems to be like the peak of the discovery, and then from there on I've been able to go through life knowing this could happen, but it seemed like it went away. And that's the funny thing. And so shortly before I went to Montana, I'd had a couple more visions, and since I'd gotten to Montana, it was more like I came to a point where I had seen the future more than once. So the way the visionary state is being revealed to me is like how it can work out in different ways, where sometimes it just slips in long enough for you to like hear something that you needed to hear it, but like nobody else remembers it. Sometimes you're gone for hours, sometimes you're gone for days, you can be gone for weeks, you can be gone for months. And I've talked to other people about this, and a friend of mine says that she's been in a visionary state for a very long time at different points, you know. So it's a little bit like that movie, something to do with Narnia. I can't remember, I'm not a big fan of this, but when they would go through the closet, they were, you know, actually in a different world. But the point being is that, you know, they could be gone for 15 years and come back and just be right where they left off with 15 years of experience added to their life. And so the impact this has for me, I call it the curse of Billy, it's something I think that I'm very sad about, that I'm very heartbroken about, and I haven't, you know, fully gotten over it. I haven't fully gotten over it yet. And I say that, you know, because I feel like about a week or so ago, I started getting really upset about it. Now, I might have had the flu or something, like a really mild version of the flu. It kind of like crept up over the course of 2 weeks, you know. And it started out with sinuses, went to my throat still being affected. And then it went to my lungs, and I was coughing and coughing. And so I haven't had a cough really bad like that for a long time, so everything was hurting. So I was feeling achy and hurty, and you just kind of get that underlying icky feeling. And I think I stayed home a little bit too. It was perfect because it was like that ultra freezing weather. We were able to close the shop I work at, and I could just stay home. But that's kind of depressing, you know. It makes you feel, you can get really depressed when you're sick, you know. And from what little I know about like the Chinese medicine system, like they use the 5 elements, corresponds with the 5 major organs, and what the lungs correspond to sorrow when it comes to like the illness aspect of it. And in ways I felt like, you know, I was experiencing a great deal of sorrow kind of as I've been dealing with this really bad cough, you know, and the whole achiness and the whole recovering. And one of the things I feel a great deal of sorrow about has been Billy, in that I haven't been able to really find him. Like I tried, you know, I think I found the person that he represents, but you know, he doesn't remember the same thing, so he's not accountable, you know, for any conversation I've had with Billy, right? So Billy seemed like, you know, he was somebody that really loved me a lot, and last couple of times I seen him was right before I was out of 5th grade, and at the end of summer break, the first part of 6th grade, before I got transferred from Sugarloaf to HOB, you know. So, and I want to talk a little bit about where that ties in, but in those last 2 visits, I was reminded urgently again to never forget who he is and how much he loved me. And so if he was the same person as Billy, he should be super happy to meet me, right? But in reality, he may not know who I am at all. And if he does remember me from his own visionary state experience, if he's having reciprocating visions by any chance, he's not willing to share it, because he doesn't, you know, he doesn't want to respond to this discussion. And I think there's a number of reasons why. And for one, you know, a good possibility is he absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, right? So there's a strong possibility of that. Now, if he does know what I'm talking about, or if he has anything to say, it's easier not to say anything, because, you know, and you know, when you're in his shoes, you know, anytime he says anything, it can be published or shared, and so everything he says to one of his fans, they're gonna broadcast that, and maybe this is a conversation he doesn't want to be associated with, and that's okay, and I understand that. But the problem with that is I don't get any feedback. And so I can only assume more than likely he doesn't have reciprocating visions. But there's just been a couple instances where maybe he does know me. And, so it's like a subconscious connection, kind of like when you meet somebody for the first time and you don't know them, but you feel a connection to them anyways. I've always kind of felt that, like, when I'm around him, I feel like he seems familiar or kindred, and just somebody like you just want to be like, hey, and hug this guy, And so, it's really difficult to assess, his thoughts, because he's sort of in a position where he's not really at liberty to communicate for a number of reasons. And so it's kind of been the whole hang up for myself in interpreting the purpose of him appearing to me in the visionary state, because it's very disappointing that I can't make the connection, because it seemed like so much work was put into making me remember him. And then later in life, I kind of wished I could find this boyfriend, because I was finding the people I was going to school with, the people in my age group, didn't know anything about the music I was being brought up with, which is like, underground electronic music, industrial music, and all that sort of stuff. It almost seemed like my dad was the only person collecting music like that down in the Florida Keys, but somehow we were finding that music at the record store, so it's like somebody down there must buy this music. But, there's a lot of people down there, believe it or not, even though that's just a little island. There's a lot of people down there. And, so anyways, it was definitely somebody I remembered meeting growing up, but I guess I didn't feel like I was ever going to see him again. I was just thinking, boy, it would be nice if I'd meet him again. And then when I thought him and Billy were the same person, it's like, oh, this can't be true. And then there are a few things that happened later on to assure me, like, no, this is the same person. But again, whether he remembers me or not. But really, so here's a few things that are disappointing. I think number one is that I feel like I'm alone, like it's really hard to find a good match for me. I don't really try to find anybody anyway, so I'm not really out here looking for a date. And my opinion is that the dating scene, the whole romance and sex, it all seems to be a lot of hostility. In fact, in the second to last meeting, I'd say at the end of 5th grade when I'd seen Billy, we had talked about how I'm going to have a lot of bad experiences with boys. And that's why he wanted to show me what it's like to be with somebody who loves me before that happens, And he was so right about that I felt like, a lot of times my interaction with guys, it's kind of a cold one. And then later I feel regretful. There's a couple people that I'm okay with, that I've been involved with. I don't feel bad about that. And there's really only one person I've ever had sex with that I still talk to. Everybody else, they become a stranger, see? And so that's why I feel like if I want to keep somebody for a friend, I don't want to have sex with them. Or once we're tired of that, then that's going to end our friendship, or, I'll never see them again. So anyways, I don't really, look for it. But at the same time, I've kind of had this thing sort of haunting me. It's been really hard to get out of my head. And, it's kind of came back to me in different ways at different times. Even after I've tried to let it go, it still kind of comes back. And so basically what's happened, I guess, over the past week or so, I started feeling really bummed out about it. Like, I really wish that this actually would have worked out, to be honest. So the question is, do you love this person? Would you marry them? And the easy answer is going to be yes, just because of the way it plays out. It seems like, wouldn't that be cool? That I've met somebody in that way, and then we met and everything worked out. That would have been great, and everybody would have thought, I must be, gifted with some degree of psychic awareness or being clairvoyant, because I had these prophetic visions, and I followed them, and I met the right person that way. It would have made me look more like a gifted person rather, but because it didn't work out, and it didn't get a desirable response, it actually makes me look kind of crazy. It makes me look very crazy, and that's been the ammunition that's been used against me, is that I have said, I remembered him from growing up. It may have been a vision. And so when I talk about the time we met in 1998, the wife came to town to intercept me and possibly another person. And the ammunition she had was probably this, this idea that I had seen him in my visions. And so now I'm like this crazy person trying to get her husband in bed or something. And so that's kind of where the negativity started, was with this particular event, and I'm standing here trying to talk with Bill as somebody's squeezing in between us and going, hey, whatever you do, don't let that psycho bitch take you home. And so that's a very hurtful event. Like that's how it started. And then things kind of, there's been a negative domino effect from there. And then, and so I've been kind of, I've been in the wrong, I would say, by, losing my patience and some of the things I've done out of anger. But I've succeeded in getting kicked off just about any, website like mindphaser.com or like any frontline assembly page there is on Facebook. And and it's really my own fault because of the fact that I keep bringing it up, or or that I've been angry about it, because every once in a while it comes back, and I feel like maybe what I'm trying to do is let it go in that way, but it's really not the best way to do it. And so I've tried to do the opposite. Instead of try to let it go, what if I just try to contact Bill Lieb again? So that's where I think I went back in like 2006, 2007, 2008, and that's where I got this one picture in this frame here. I've showed you this before, I'm standing there hugging Bill like this, and I really felt like I wanted some reconciliation. I feel like I've, I regret a lot of the things I've said. I don't want them to think, like, so I've basically been singled out as a troll. Like, I've become like the problem, so. And what I've had to realize is that what's really happening, I was also being made a scapegoat, but because I have a bad temper and somehow it's been difficult to let this go, I've probably done some things to make matters worse too. So I felt like this night, I felt like there was some reconciliation because I got a chance to hug Bill Lieb finally. Because in the visionary state back in 1982, like that's one of the things Billy said is like, I really want you to give me a hug. And I thought for two reasons. For this reason and the fact that, I really want reconciliation with this band, because I really do like them a lot, and I'm very sorry, I let things get that way. So I tried to, like, make things good again, but then when I went to see them in 2008, I'm just like, if I don't get a chance to sit down and talk with them, I really need to let this go. So I was like one of the last people to leave the theater, and there's this chick trying to haul him off. So she showed up like the last 3 times I seen him. That there's this chick named Jeannie, I think she would come and haul him off and take him away from me. Anyway, so I hugged Bill Lieb goodbye, assuming this might be it. This might be the last chance to talk to him, and if he doesn't allow it, maybe I should give up. And so in 2009, when Rosie invited me to come to Montana, I thought, it would be a good idea to get out of Colorado, because there's like it's like a good hub for bands to come through. So Frontline Assembly always comes through there. And if I go see Frontline Assembly, I try to talk to Bill Lieb, and then I always leave there pissed off again. So ironically, I get to Montana, and I was talking to going on to Facebook, and he had that mean girlfriend I was telling you about that. She actually contacted me first by creating a fake Facebook page for Bill. And then everything went from there. So it's kind of funny because, in fact, by going up and staying with Rosie, so I figured this must be the connection of Rosie and Billy, is that, like, she was the one keeping him in the visionary state, but then, like, in reality, I gotta check the time, she didn't really know him, but I feel like she was the one person to help enable me in kind of making the connection to where I could actually communicate with him quite a bit. So I felt like, I went on Facebook, and he eventually created a real Facebook page, and that went for a little bit, but ended up fighting with his girlfriend, and so that all got shut down in 2011. I didn't contact him for another 8 years because I had like a flashback to that, like that time I seen him in, it's in 1987, like right at the end of my 5th grade school year, right before summer break. I'd seen Billy over at Juan's house, and that's where we had that conversation about how guys are gonna break my heart. And to remember that he loves me and all that good junk. And so anyways, what I was saying about that is I think that flashback prompted me. Maybe I should try one more time And I think I contacted him right as he was getting ready to remarry his ex-wife. So, and she's the one that came to Denver and told everyone I'm like a psycho bitch trying to get her husband in bed. So I was like, oh no. And he's probably, I might as well forget about it for sure. But there's a lot of things in the visions that I'm going to talk about later. Like 98, I think when I went to see my dad for Christmas, I went in a visionary state and he told me about this book he was reading, and it was filled with information, and there was just all this different stuff where I started remembering. So like around 2000, I'm like, oh, I started remembering everything, and that's what that book was about. All this stuff is tying in. It's like, and I started thinking, so the narrative was that, Billy was going to come for me someday, right? So Billy is going to show up, in reality, Bill Lieb is going to remember me, and he's always wanted to reconnect with me. So in reality, according to my visions, actually, the actual person who was Bill Lieb, not just Billy, is also going to remember me and has always wanted to marry me, but he had to do this first and had to do that first. And at some point we were in contact with each other, and he appreciated hearing from me, but he wasn't at liberty to communicate much. So he would occasionally say hey or hello, just talk long enough to say hello, but he's not allowed to talk to me because he feels that he's being watched very closely. And so I was starting to recognize this in 2000. I'm thinking, well, this must tie in with the time travel stuff. Like, if he's a time traveler and all this stuff, maybe we're being watched by like the feds or whoever investigates the paranormal or the ongoings and, extraterrestrial contactees or whatever, stuff like that. So I started getting kind of scared, like, oh, wow, this is a big deal. Maybe Billy wants to contact me, but he doesn't want to get caught doing it because we're being watched very closely. And now I interpret that differently. It might be something where like he would love to talk to me, but there's a lot of people waiting to see what's going to happen. Like, there's certain, like maybe the wife, maybe the ex-girlfriend, these other people are nosy and they're like, what's going to happen next? Maybe it's just people like that. Who knows? Anyways, I feel like it didn't make sense at the time because I'm like, well, I don't have his number. I don't have a way to contact him. I'd like at that point I was like, I have no way to contact this guy. But I thought I was seeing him around the neighborhood, And so it was kind of a scary time because I'm like, well, I've seen him around. There was somebody that appeared to be Bill Lieb. So this is again where I'm wondering if this is just something had been a psychosis-inducing experience. There may be, some truth in the psycho bit as far as having had a spell of psychosis. But, the visionary state thing is a real thing, and it may itself have induced some psychosis by scaring me a little bit, right? But so I like to think that in the long term, this has been an education. But this little section here is where you're going to question, like, well, who's on the other side? Because it's been kind of a heartbreaking experience to, kind of have the door slammed in your face. I've had to take a lot of criticism. Just be like, Jody, you're delusional. Jody, you're crazy. Jody, you need to get professional help. This is like, on some level, there's truth in that. I could definitely use some help. And that's partly why I like to share these videos. I mean, there's really only a few people I hope these reach. And these are people who are going to help me. So these are the people who are going to be close friends in my life. If you're going to just be close to me, you're going to help me with my art projects. Maybe the person who marries me someday. So, if you're going to be closely involved with me and you're going to help me, you should understand this stuff about me that I've been dealing with the visionary state. They're beings that I'm communicating with, but I'm still working on who they are. And so what we need to do to achieve that discernment is probably clean up my diet a little bit, do a lot of inner work, a lot of meditation work. And then the way you know the truth of things is by the fruit of it. And you're just going, well, if the effect of meeting Bill Lieb and his wife are just, that's ruined my reputation in the small music community. So some of these people, think I'm just a troll or I'm just like the stalker or whatever negative thing they're doing. But what I've come to discover, it's really there's a lot of other things going on, like, we're talking about somebody who's got his whole life going on. And I think Billy was at a very big turning point in his life where things weren't going so well with his relationship. And so some of this is kind of deflection and scapegoating and taking, the attention off of what he's doing, that's bringing the negative attention from her, So that's where it's been easy sort of like blame me and make me the problem. And so this is one of those things I always hope to what you call clear up. But I feel like a lot of things have been done to hush me up because it sounds like I'm just complaining. But I think it makes a great story about, what our music scene is like, because I was wanting to go into the music business and, like maybe even join his band or be involved with bands like this, like maybe if I had a band, I'd be part of, one of the opening acts, maybe on these tours or at these festivals in this music community. But coming to meet these guys on these particular occasions, it kind of ruined my overall point of view. Maybe the whole music scene isn't that bad, but maybe this particular night, the people that were there at the bar, the people that run Fashion Nation, there was a guy there that doesn't like me, and I'll tell you about that later. And so I kind of feel like, aside from me, Bill, and his wife, there's a lot of things gone wrong with our music community, because what we've got to remember about industrial music and everything tied in with it is we're part of a cultural revolution. And in ways, I feel like we're losing sight of our original purpose as being part of this community and being part of this music and art and philosophy community, because we're getting caught up in things like, appearances and stuff. It's almost like it's becoming too traditional. Like you need to look a certain way and act a certain way if you want to fit in with us. If you want to be a nonconformist, then you got to act like us and think like us. So this is the kind of community it is. And maybe it was just an unfortunate synchronicity or coincidence that we met at a bad time, and the current Denver scene was in a bad state. So that's the thing, is like, so we're exploring my own personal experience, but at the same time, I kind of want to put out a little bit of my insight about what's been happening with our overall music culture, because I really want to see, it doesn't necessarily, like we don't necessarily need to revive a dead thing. Like what, we need to do is kind of keep moving forward with our cultural revolution and whatever our music is. I don't care what music we listen to. There's a lot of different music scenes that are part of the cultural revolution, everywhere from folk music to even some of the country music that's coming out. There's of course punk music. Some parts of rap and hip hop are pretty cool. Mostly like rock and roll, heavy metal. There's, really what we need to do is unite with people that are part of the cultural revolution. And like, some of these interactions I share, like say going into this particular night at the bar, it just made me feel like, something's terribly wrong with our music scene. And whether that's true or not, at that point, the last 20 years or so, I haven't seen a whole lot of growth. Like I haven't discovered any exciting new bands like we did back in the 80s. It was exciting to actually discover Frontline Assembly and Skinny Puppy and all the Wax Trax stuff. And boy, the last 20 plus years has been really drab. And the only thing that I've been really able to discover was psychedelic trance music. And it doesn't replace any of that. It's just the best thing I can find. I like it. I enjoy it. I listen to Christopher Lawrence Pharmacy Radio. But anyways, it's been a heartbreak to have, say, to make the connection with Bill, but keeping me lonely. And on a night when I sure wish I had someone to hug and kiss, then I get really sad about it. The other thing is the relationships, the believability as to whether or not I'm going into visionary state. So what I guess it's really doing is really helping me to see where people are at and what they can understand. So when I'm sharing out my visionary state experience, there's been a few people I've come in contact with, like, oh, I know what you mean. So the only people that really don't flip out on me have also had visionary state experiences. Like Rosie, of course, that's like my main person I come to when it comes to psychic awareness and stuff. And she's an alien contactee or a UFO abductee. And so that's kind of what you call alienated her from much of her family. And so the real exciting thing that happened before she died, within that month, her daughter came by to tell her that her and her husband had been picked up from Highway 25. They were in the middle of Wyoming going to Colorado from Montana. Them and their entire vehicle were lifted up and moved into South Dakota. And so they were traveling down that highway that passes the Devil's Tower just to say, hi, you guys, we're aliens and we can pick you up and move you around like nothing. I'm really glad that happened. It's exciting. They were meant to share that valuable confirmation that I'm also sharing with you. But I'm pretty sure these are probably relatives of hers who also thought maybe she's just crazy. And so revelations like this, like it's becoming a real hot topic. People are seeing UFOs. And so what I'm talking about ties in a little bit with extraterrestrial discussion because I'm going to visionary state. These are otherworldly beings. I don't know that I've been in a spaceship or not, but my close friend Rosie has been. And she's been in contact with them ever since. She says they're helping us. And I love to watch, channeled information quite a bit. And I feel like, the key to my creativity is being able to channel. And so if I'm able to, say, get into music and get to where I'm set up and making, good solid albums, songs and productions, I could be in touch with the extraterrestrials. I could be channeling transformative information through my music and just having a good time. Because, this paradigm's being put in front of us that we're going to be running into some turbulence for whatever reason. We don't know if there's another solar system coming through here. There could be, some big stuff going on politically, like there's already warfare in Europe and that area. And we're a little bit worried about being invaded through our borders. And right now there's a conflict about, Texas really wants to protect those borders. And for some reason, the White House is telling them not to protect those borders. And so as we go into this turbulence, we really need to have clarity and a good state of mind to deal with things and not, be fearful. So that's where, I need to kind of work on my own personal clarity, and kind of get over some of these things that are bugging me. Like, I got to stop letting this make me feel sad. For example, like I feel sad about, I didn't make the connection with Billy, now I'm alone. And I feel sad that a lot of people don't understand me. And I've had a lot of people lash out at me and chew my ass. So anyways, I call this the effects of the Billy curse is absolutely, I definitely feel to this day a great deal of sorrow and heartbreak due to the fact that I wasn't able to make the connection. And not only that, but just, a lot of the things I've learned about Bill along the ways. I honestly feel sad for some of these things. I'm really happy for him. A lot of things have actually gone really great for him, but it's like that song by New Order, like, every time I see you falling, get down on my knees and pray, right? Because there are certain things that have happened in Bill's life that I feel very sad for, but, I pray for his, that he has everything going good for him. And, last time we actually spoke to him, he said, Jody, I hope that you're well and everything's going great for you. I mean, it's the best thing we could do is wish a person well, because our thoughts and prayers do matter, and appreciate it, having him say that to me. And same to Bill Lee. I certainly hope that he's happy, he's healthy, he's strong. And, as we get older, man, things get harder and stuff like that. So it's real important. I really like to send my love and support to I like to think of Bill as my old friend, because I remember him from the Visionary State. But yeah, he's getting a little older. My old friend, I don't know where our relationship is at. I'm definitely Bill Lee's friend. And he might be my friend too, but we don't talk to each other. However, thoughts and prayers. Bill Lee says, I hope that you're doing well. I hope everything's good for you. It means a lot. And as I've mentioned, a lot of people have chewed my ass and yelled at me, but Bill Lee and I feel like we've taken steps in the right direction. Let's, be at peace and all this stuff, but still at the same time, looking forward to the day that me and him could just sit down and just talk about anything, kind of like how me and Rosie used to do. Anyways, you guys, I got to get ready and go back to work and hustle up and make that fat dollar so I can, again, look forward to the day that I'm set up to make music, make better videos. I have so much to share. Anyways, you guys have a great night. I'll talk to you soon.